Hey, everybody, welcome back to the SoCap Improv Comedy Podcast. My name is Ralph. I am the owner and artistic director at the SoCap Comedy Theatre in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. We do classes, shows, rentals, corporate events, all that good stuff. Hey, you doing a bridal shower, a bachelorette, bachelor party, something like that? I'm doing one on Friday. I'm going to do improv session for someone who's getting married and a bunch of her friends. It's gonna be stupidly fun. They always are. But if that interests you, get in touch at admin@socap.ca for whatever your improv related needs are. Um, Today I want to something that's come up recently in a couple of my classes is character flexibility, surprising yourself, and how fun that can be. So I think the ability to surprise yourself is definitely an underrated skill. Uh, when you start a scene and you creating a character, like where does this character come from, right? It's and when I say character, I don't mean like some highly developed specific character. I mean, just we've started seeing like, if you're a dad or a mom or a partner or a child or a boss or an employee, like where does this come from, right? It comes from, your choices, the things that people say. And when you start, your character is largely unknown to you, probably. And then you start making choices based on all the offers and information that comes in and your opinion of them. Quite quickly, some people settle into a character and become quite rigid in that character. Sometimes these characters are like themselves and they have the same sensibility. Or you can be more flexible and learn to develop characters that have different sensibilities than you, different worldviews. That could be, some physical things like age or gender, uh, or it could be more, things about related to like, oh, if I'm a parent, maybe I can play a character who's not a parent. If I'm a boss, maybe I can play a character who's an employee. So you can learn and play these different kinds of characters. So whatever your character is, you can be very rigid about what he or she would and would not do, or you can be very open to what they would not do and make decisions based upon that. So recently, in one class, I was doing this exercise called the host game, which I love, and it's deceptively hard. When I tell people what to do, they're like, oh, they kind of roll their eyes almost like this seems too easy. And then they get into it and they're like, oh, okay, nope, harder than I thought. Anyway, um, this the scene had just started, and character A said to character B, I'm moving to Calgary. Oh, you should come with me. And character B said, nah, I don't want to go to Calgary. And so I let the scene run another like few seconds, maybe 10, 15 seconds after that. And it characteristically just kind of dissolved into nothing, because the one of the sort of main offer there that was offered was not followed through on, was just completely shoved aside. And I just went, why did you say your character would not move to Calgary? And he goes, oh, well, I know my character wouldn't do that. And, and I challenged him. I said, why? How do you know that? Oh, I just know that. Okay. Well, I mean, so let's look at that. So your character's quite rigid in their worldview, and you were presented with something and you shut it down, and then there was no other, you didn't come back with anything. And so your scene just kind of fell apart. Now you're standing around wondering what to do. Whereas, why wouldn't he go to Calgary? Just because you have said that. Now, I think probably this individual decided not to do that because of the fear of like, okay, well, if I say I'll move to Calgary, how are we going to do that? Are we going to like get in a plane now? What are we going to do? And that fear of the unknown, especially if you see characters who are gonna, go skydiving, every skydiving scene never results in people skydiving. They just stand in the front of the plane at the door of the plane saying, "You go first." No, you know what? I'm having second thoughts about this, and those might be some of the most boring scenes in the world. Similarly, with getting on roller coasters or anything people have to mime, and they like, "Oh, I don't know how to do that," and so they'll back away from it. But here again, by making that choice, you have made a safe choice. You have closed yourself off from discovery or advancing, and you played very safe, and it cuts you off from play. And usually, when that happens, the scene fizzles out. Meanwhile, in a class a little later, I had another student in this class. She discovered by being open that her character wanted to destroy relationships. Her character had had bad luck, and so she had decided, while we were doing this improvised play, that she was going to go out and sabotage the relationships of her friends, and that was her discovery, and it was a joy, when she's, oh, I guess, when she figured it out, so, oh, I guess my character just wants everybody else to be miserable. It's like, well, you know what? That's very relatable. A lot of people are like that, if through Schadenfreude, or like, well, if I can't be happy, no one can be happy. So, in one scene, she was interacting with another character that's playing her friend who was in a relationship who was going through some trouble. And of course, this character that wanted to break everybody out said, you know what? You should break up with him. And her friend, of course, pushed back and said, well, why would you? You're my friend. Why would you say that? And here you have what is difficult. Like, it's a difficult thing to, without saying, well, I'm miserable and I want to break everybody up, which, is it possible? It would work. Um, she wanted to give her friend like a good reason, like a reason why this would be good for her. And she said, here's the thing. You're not really somebody until you've had your heart broken. You need to be hurt. You need to be broken. And then you can rise like the phoenix. And people in the class kind of like, gasped a little bit, and we laughed a lot. And it was really interesting and really fun. Now, this is not something that actor, that improviser, believed personally, but she improvised that line as a way to give her character, a seemingly, a positive role in breaking up her friend's relationship. So by being flexible, she would discover the character, and then she was put in a position where she had to play it, and it became very fun and very alive, and everybody had a thing. Now, of course, the downside of that, whatever, is that it is more difficult, it is more challenging, but it's way more fun, and it's way more about discovery and playfulness. But you will be in situations where, I don't know how to really deal with this. But improv is a low stakes environment that lets you work through this and figure it out. Um, but being open and flexible, allowed this second student to have this moment that was wonderful and very funny. And, it does a couple things. Number one, when we play villains or baddies, villains don't think they're villains. They think they are righteous. They think they're self-righteous. They think they are doing the right thing. I'm a huge fan of the first two Star Wars movies from the 70s and 80s. And my only quibble, and I'm not the one who noticed this, someone else said it, and I was like, you're absolutely right, is that Darth Vader would never say, Luke, come to the dark side. He should say, come to the strong side or whatever, because in my view, Darth Vader doesn't think he's a villain. He thinks he's doing the right thing. Hey, we got to bring order to this ridiculous galaxy, this with all the chaos, because if we don't instill order, it's going to fall apart, right? So villains think they're doing the right thing. They don't think they're villains. They think they're helping, right? They're bringing order. They're agents of change in a good way, right? We see them as bad, but they don't see themselves that way. And so here again, you're playing a character, you're a baddie, villain, and you want to play like you're right, because no one believes a villain that goes around like an old melodrama, twirling their mustache and saying how evil they are. Good villains think they're good, right? Um, and Another thing that this allows us to do by being open is to play characters that do have different sensibilities than us. And by that, we develop empathy for other people and other situations. For example, like like when I'm on stage, I play women a lot because I'm in a troupe with three other guys. And one student at one point came up to me and she said, "I love the way you play women," which was one of the greatest compliments I've ever received because I do try to be smart. I don't play down, but by playing women a lot, I have developed an empathy for them. I mean, I'm not saying, I understand a woman's point of view entirely or even a bit, but I do empathize with a lot of things about that. And if you are not a parent and you play parents, you might get empathy towards your own parents or parents in general. Or like if you are a boss and you've never been an employee, well, you can play an employee and bring your smarts and your intelligence to that. The whenever it's almost invariably it happens when a student who's under 40 plays a 70 or an 80-year-old person in a scene, they'll make two jokes. They'll make the Alzheimer's joke and the diaper joke. And that's just rigidity and thinking about not being in a moment, not representing a moment, but just thinking, oh, what would be funny, or this is, the things I associate with him, but not inhabiting that character, right? So it's if you can start a scene and just let this character sort of emerge and surprise yourself with like, oh, I don't know how to play a character who's actively going around trying to break up relationships. That seems hard. Yeah, it does seem hard the first time you do it. It'll get easier the more you do it. But it's being open and being flexible to what the universe is giving you, right? And boy, oh boy, does this work exactly in the same way when you're out in the world, right? There's two ways to go through life. There's the way that you go out and you hope nothing bad happens to you, which is invariably something bad is going to happen to you, or you go out and you build the skills to be prepared for the bad things when they come. And that's the difference between having a character that's rigid and is set, and this is the character, and that's it. I don't care what you're saying. It's a very protective way to go, and it's a very boring way to go, and it doesn't allow any kind of growth or discovery or nuance. Or you can live with your uncertainty, which is difficult, I know, and you can let the character come to you and discover it and play with what you have. In the same way with life, you can try to control everything rigidly and drive yourself absolutely insane, or you can just take your hands off the wheel and learn how to, as the Buddhists say, be like water and go with the flow, right? Oh, this is what's happening? Okay, right? Water is the soft substance, but it will wear down the hardest thing. Anyway, that's my advice, and what I try to do is to encourage people to discover their characters along with the rest of us, because that sense of discovery is magic. And that's what I do a lot in my Friday drop-ins is we get together because there's always a different group of people. So it's a drop-in that you have to book in advance for because I don't want it to be too full. And, we have to exist together and discover together. And often, we do the same exercise almost every week. And I have students now who say, like, if we didn't do it, I would miss it, because you do sit down with a bunch of people and you discover together. So, in closing, I would encourage you to say, don't say my character would never do that. Well, okay, my character is going to do this. Okay, what does this tell me about my character that I did not know before? Stay open, stay curious, stay flexible and playful, right? You will get much further. It is more challenging. It is. I'm not saying it's easy, but nothing worthwhile is easy. Improv is a lot of discovery for you and your audience. And that process of discovering something all together is magic. Anyway, thank you for listening. See y'all next week on the SoCap Improv Comedy Podcast. Have a good night. Bye.